Hi, I'm Storm, the youngest sibling. I totally messed that up. I was not prepared. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what am I supposed to say again? I forgot. And then I was like, wait, I'm Storm? That's not right
It was
either. Oh
bound
my
to
God.
happen.
Y'all better calm down. You totally threw me off my game, making me wait until 9 o'clock. I am not awake enough for this.
Oh, man.
Anyway, welcome back to another episode of Three Siblings Walking to the Bar. I am Storm, the youngest sibling.
Deshay, the oldest sibling.
And I'm Sage, the favorite middle sibling.
Also, please ignore, I didn't realize that you can see all my crafting stuff.
Honey.
Okay, and then there's just trash. Listen, I
Listen.
did not clean up after all my mess that I made.
So
it's fine.
right before we started recording, I turned on a lamp, and I'm sure you guys can see it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the light flashing. So that's happening. And then my headphones weren't working. So I swear this place is freaking haunted. And it just doesn't want me to do this podcast. It's like, can you stop talking about us, please? Every single time.
You know what
Every
I am.
time.
Listen.
Oh my God.
Mm-mm.
I look
think it's just today because soccer games getting all messed up. And
I mean, y'all, it was ridiculous. I literally could not make this up. I was sitting there cracking up, and Mom was there too. And I was like, I'm literally texting Chase's Storm right now talking about the podcast, and she's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. Because Matt's like, you have to record tonight, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, you're gonna be late, and I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah. It's not okay. Then I mess up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my
God. It was literally the lights just went off, and I was like, it was just our field.
That's so ridiculous.
First it was, I'm hitting the mic. First it was supposed to be yesterday
in
the morning.
Yeah.
And then it rained too much on Monday for it to be.
I know. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Such a hot mess.
Oh my! And it's a school night and just whatever.
I know. I remember being that age and not worrying about it, or work through school. But as a parent, I'm like, no, they need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a hard one to get up in the mornings. He's a night owl for sure. And he's difficult to get up. And yeah.
Not for me.
He's difficult to get up in the morning. But
I am also difficult to get up in the morning.
True. So is your oldest nephew.
Yeah. If it's before 11 o'clock, don't even try it.
I wish.
Unless we're at Disney.
Unless we're at Disney.
Yeah.
Then you have to.
I know. I literally remember something I'm like, Sage, how are you going to get up that early?
For Disney, I'll wake up that early.
I know. I don't like to wake up early, but I can't sleep late. it's just not something that can happen.
There's after 11 o'clock, if I'm still in bed, then my brain will be like, you need to get up.
It's time to get up.
Time to get up.
Like yesterday, I don't know what was going on. I got my, period, TMI, whatever. It is what it is. And I guess she's came in with a vengeance because I had this weird pain in my right ovary area. And it never feels like that. And I was telling Matt, I'm like, something is not right. It didn't feel like it normally does. And I like to think I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but I mean, it was bad. It was, and I was feeling ill, just gross. It was weird, but I laid in bed all day and I took a nap yesterday, and I don't take naps. And so I just felt off all day.
Yeah. If you normally don't take naps and then you take one, it's weird.
Yes, it is. I feel
it plays your whole day off.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it just feels weird.
I'm really bad at I feel like I wasted my day away.
Yes. Yeah.
I have that horrible, what do they joke about it on TikTok? Generational trauma of I can't sit still unless all my shit's done. So even if I have an excessive amount of stuff that there's no way I can get it done in one day, I will not
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Same.
It's pretty shitty. But I mean, it is what it is.
Oh my God. we have it so together, you guys. It's so good.
We're such great adults, let me tell you.
Like,
but I also started my period.
Oh, yay.
Finally. After like 6 months.
Twinsies.
Not really that long, but oh my gosh. No, but literally, so I had picked a story that I was planning on doing, and then like I get like halfway down with it and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'll tell you about it because I'll do it eventually. But it was like at the time I was like, I can't. It was just so detailed and I just didn't like it needed more time. And then I was like, and then so I picked another one and then I was like going through it and I was like, and then I started my period and I was like, of course I picked this fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try really hard not to cry, but there might be one little part where I'm like,
oh shit.
So it's fine, but like it's okay.
Okay.
Everyone calm down.
Podcast.
Yes.
Someone's gonna cry or get mad or laugh.
Yes.
Like it's gonna happen.
And you're just gonna have to deal with it, okay?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I have to show you guys. I've been like hiding this thing. So we have this girl that makes cups for our studio. And she made me this one. This is my favorite movie of all time. It's called Empire Records. This is probably backwards.
Stop. I love Empire Records.
Movie, but wait, look at the quarters.
The quarters?
Oh my gosh.
And it says, I don't feel I need to explain my art to you, Warren. And then Mark down at the bottom, shoplifter. This one.
No.
Hold on.
That is epic.
This one. Shock me with that behavior. And then there's like Rex Manning Day and shit on it. But
that is so cool.
This lady she's so dope. I just told her, I was like, have you ever seen this movie? And she was like, yes, let me do that for you. It's amazing. It's so cool. But I'm gonna like link her Facebook because so the name of the company is the Crazy Crow Creations, and they're on Facebook. But on Facebook, there's a ridiculous amount of Crazy Crow Creations. So just be careful. It's the right one. She's in Texas. Also people that are in Texas, we sell them at the shop. This is a shameless plug, but yeah, she's the one who made my Mean Girls cup too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I just tell her, I'm like, hey, have you seen this movie? And she's like, yes, absolutely. Let's do it.
I've seen it.
So there may or may not be some 3-sibling cups coming out relatively soon.
Ooh, yes.
I just spoke to her the other day about making.
You were like, have you ever heard of this podcast?
She's like, up yes. Phone and followed me instantly. She's like, dude, when I'm making these, that's all I do. And I was like, okay,
that's great.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Aw. You were like, cool, we've got, 57 episodes, so you have plenty to catch up on.
Yes.
And they're like an hour a piece, so you're good.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love that.
Maybe I just had to show you.
I had like a whole crafting weekend because I was like, I need a front door thing for Christmas because I don't have one. I was like, I need to make a new plate for Santa. And you can't just like buy one. You have to make it. If you have a Cricut, you just have to do it.
Especially if you have a Cricut, like
yeah.
It's just an excuse.
Well, I was looking at like the little door hanger things and I was like, these are selling for $60.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can make one of those for like a quarter of the price. And then I bought extras and I was like, maybe I'll just make a bunch and then sell the other ones for $60.
Right?
I'll buy one.
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll just make y'all one. Okay, y'all. So this story I was telling y'all before, it's not a long story, but it's a story where I didn't realize this is where it came from. I was just reading through it and I was like, and I didn't realize how close to home it was either. So it's not cool, but fun to know where this thing came from.
Interesting fact.
Yes. And once I say a name, if you already know where it came from, then you probably already know the name. So if you know the name, shh. Don't ruin it for everybody else.
You know the name, no, you don't.
Oh, sorry, my husband just walked in and scared the poop out of me.
Is your house haunted too?
Yeah, it's haunted with old people is what it is. All right. So on January 12th, 1996, Glenda Whitson was home when her daughter Donna and her 2 grandchildren came to visit. There was Amber Hagerman, who was 9 years old, and Ricky Hagerman, who was 5 years old. They lived in Arlington, Texas, in the Highland Park Addition since 1975.
Damn.
And so, it's a pretty safe area.
Yes.
Yeah.
The kids had asked their mom and their grandfather to go ride their bikes, and they said yes as long as they just went around the block one time and then came home. So Amber and Ricky got on their bikes and headed off. So there was a Winn-Dixie grocery store. Do you guys remember those?
Mm-hmm.
There was a Winn-Dixie grocery store that had shut down and had been shut down for a while, but local kids in the area liked to go ride their bikes in the parking lot, and there was apparently a really cool ramp that everybody liked to go down. So that parking lot was on East Abraham Street, which is a really busy street, and this was at 3:10 in the afternoon, so it was in broad daylight. The kids went to the parking lot. They went down the ramp. Ricky wanted to leave because they had told them that you can only go around the block one time and then you needed to come home. Yeah. So he left and went back to his grandparents' house. When he got home, Jimmy, who was his grandfather, asked where his sissy was, and Ricky let him know. She said that she wanted to stay to go down the ramp one more time and then she'll come home. Well, Jimmy said, no, you need to go back and you need to get her, and then you both need to come home.
Yeah.
So Ricky left. He came back maybe a minute or two later and said he couldn't find his sissy, which makes me want to cry because I'm like, he's 5 and he's literally calling her his sissy.
Yeah.
So cute. Jimmy immediately got into his truck and went to go to the parking lot. And when he got there, he had spotted a police car in the parking lot and he drove up to the police. The policeman said that they had gotten a 911 call because a girl was screaming when a guy got out of his truck and picked her up and put her in his truck.
Oh my God.
No.
The only thing that they could find was a bike. And then Jimmy said the only thing that he knew what to say at that moment was, that's my granddaughter's bike. So while Donna was retelling this story, so where I got this information from, it was like a 10-year reunion, not a reunion, you know what I mean? Like a
memoriam
this was 10 years
thing.
ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everything was kind of past tense, but she said that was 8 minutes. It was 8 minutes from the time she rode away on her bicycle until the man called 911. People have to know this is how fast these things can happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that Winn-Dixie had to have been right down the street. If the kid could have ridden there and back in a minute or two.
Yeah.
So, of course, right after that, it was all over the news. The parents were on the news. Grandparents were on the news. Please help me find my kid. Please make sure she comes home safe. Please help me, So they also had, his name is Jen Kevill. He's the man who called 911. They interviewed him on there, and he was quoted saying, I saw her riding up and down the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
She was by herself. I saw this pickup. He pulled up, jumped out and grabbed her. When she screamed, I figured the police ought to know about it, so I called them. I wish I had known more. I'd done all I could do. Which makes me feel sad for him, too, because he's like, I knew at that moment that wasn't right if she's screaming.
Yeah.
I mean, at least all I can do. To do that, which is a lot more than most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. He said that he wasn't big, but he was very fast, and he was either white or Hispanic, and his truck was dark. But he was too far away that he couldn't really see any details of what the man actually looked like. The police thought it was a stranger abduction. So majority of missing children end up usually being runaways or a family member took them. Like it's a custody thing. Dad ended up taking them or whatever.
Right.
Roughly 100 stranger abductions of children are reported each year, one every 3 or 4 days on average. Stranger abductions are the most troubling because of missing children. 9 out of 10 victims are female, half are sexually assaulted, and 3 out of the 4 are killed within 3 hours. So it is very important, like the second they go missing, to find them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The abductor's truck was spotted at the laundromat down the park. So it was in the same parking lot that she ended up getting taken at Winn-Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
The police think that it was just a crime of opportunity. They think that he saw her and her brother show up at the parking lot, and then the second her brother left, that's when he took her.
Yeah.
Kevel, the man that called 911, he said he watched him drive west out of the parking lot and then disappear. The police and the FBI ended up forming a special task force to help investigate. So this abduction was like front news. It was all over. Everyone in DFW knew about this.
Right.
And they were hoping that it would trigger some more witnesses that maybe saw her struggling in the car when he was driving, or they would remember something and go, oh, I know, let me call him and tell him about this situation.
Right.
So this is a little weird. I don't know why they were doing a story about this, but a local TV station was actually in the middle of working on a story about Amber's mom struggling to get off welfare.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's weird.
But yeah, so what they ended up doing was they released videotapes of Amber to a bunch of media outlets. So she was just everywhere, all over the newspapers, all over everybody's TV, everywhere. The police chief even called her Arlington's child. Like everybody was looking for her.
Yeah.
4 days after Amber's abduction, a man was out walking his dog and found her body naked near some apartments in North Arlington. Her throat had been slit. And then this is a, hold on, who said it? Randy Lockhart, which was a police detective at the time. He said Amber was completely nude except for a sock on her left foot. We rolled her over and I caught her head in my hands. Several lacerations to her throat. A knife or a screwdriver had been used to rip her throat out.
Oh my.
A 9-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Ew. So the FBI had released a profile on him. They said he was at least 25 years old and he had to have worked or lived near to the spot he dumped the body. Amber had been alive for at least 2 days after she was taken, which to them meant somebody needs to help us look in people's house. Like if you're going to your friend's house, look and see if you can find a place where they might have been holding a little girl. Is there coloring somewhere that's not normal for that person to have? Was there a random blankets and a pillow somewhere that wouldn't be normal? Or is there a spot that seemed really clean that they had just cleaned up a mess? Or it was something, they knew that this had happened very close and somebody would be able to find what was going on. Yeah. So they also believe that something had to have happened to make him kill her. So he had gotten into a fight with somebody, maybe a domestic abuse. He lost his job, something. And they think that this would have changed his appearance due to the trauma. So I know I've said this before where it's like, you can't feel sorry for them because they did something horrific, but it is traumatic to them too. So they think that he probably would have changed the way that he looked in response to that. The Arlington police spokesman said, our hope is someone out there will hear this and will think, gee, this sounds like someone I know. The way they worded that.
Yeah.
But
Gee.
Gee.
Wow.
I don't think that would be how I said it. Oh, gee, that sounds like Billy Bob that I work with. Let me go call the police.
Yeah.
Like,
We're
whatever.
not 70-year-old white women.
So a lot of people called in with people that fit this description. So that's the hard thing about it is that's a very broad description. Like, yes, it is helpful, but it's such a broad description that they ended up interviewing 5,500 people in the 18 months after the abduction.
Wow.
And none of them resulted in any sort of suspect or killer.
Wow.
The summer of 1997, after investing $1 million on the investigation, they ended up disbanding the task force.
That was right before we moved here.
When? Yes.
That was right
1997, the summer of 1997. I don't remember
we
what year
in 98.
98?
Yeah.
I think that sounds right. It would have been somewhat around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I was in 5th grade in 01.
Yeah. I was in 5th grade in 2000. So it would have been.
So, yeah.
I was in 7th grade when we moved here. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Well, like, did you graduate? Let's do some math.
A long ass time.
So the grandma was quoted saying, "They don't really have much to go on. A few fibers they found on her body, they tell us. They're still working on it and they call us now and then. They say they'll never give up. After 10 years, you lose hope and that they'll never find him. But I still have a little bit of hope." She said this was her 10-year anniversary. I forgot to look and see what date they wrote this. So, I mean, it was still a while ago, but she said that they really hope that they find him before she died. And I think she was 67 when they did this interview. And she said, "It won't bring her back, but at least we would know that he got what he had coming to him."
Yeah.
So during all this, a Dallas man had asked, since this is so important when a child goes missing, to immediately start looking for them, why is there not a way that you can tell the public that there's a child missing like you do for a tornado or a hurricane? Like, we should make this a thing.
Yeah.
And then July of 1997, radio and television executives in the DFW adopted the idea, and they initiated the Dallas Amber Plan. The police were to provide timely information with pictures and descriptions, and they would release it on the media immediately. This was helpful. So 16 months later, a babysitter had ran off with an 8-week-old child, and the alert went out. And 90 minutes later, a driver heard the alert and spotted the truck, and the child ended up being returned home.
Oh.
Wow. Houston had set up its own Amber Plan in 2000. And then 2 years later, the state of Texas initiated Amber Alerts. The same year, U.S. Justice Department began coordinating the program with states and cities, and today all 50 states have some kind of Amber Alert plan.
That's awesome.
As of January 2nd, 2023, 1,127 children have been recovered due to the Amber Alert system.
I always wondered that, like, if anything ever came from those, because I get them all the time.
Yes. And so there is a lot of, like, controversy with it, because an Amber Alert, there's certain stipulations to send out an Amber Alert. So if we know that, if mom has custody of the child and we know that dad has the child and we're aware that dad is not going to hurt the child, dad just wants the child, they're not going to send out an Amber Alert.
Okay.
Or, I don't know the details of it, but there are stipulations with it. And so people have certain issues where it's like, you can turn Amber Alerts off on your phone.
Mm-mm.
If they get too much, then people get annoyed and start turning them off, which I feel like is bad juju. And I feel like if my child went missing, I would want you to have your alerts on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I refuse to turn them off.
No, never.
And, so that's kind of one of those where it's like, okay, it might get oversaturated. But again, if that's your child, you would want that out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There were some other things where it's like, if you are that mom who you want your baby, like you might not trust dad, you want the Amber Alert out, where they're like, no, they have to be like this age or whatever, So there are some issues with it that definitely need to be worked out, but for the most part, it's very helpful and it's saved a lot of children.
That's wild. That's amazing.
So this again is also from Grandma. This is a thing that's going to make me a little bit sad, so I'm going to try to just read it and swallow really hard. Okay. My heart drops down to my shoes because I know what those people are going through. This is when she hears the word Amber Alert or she hears her phone go off or whatever. That's what she's talking about. She said, this is the right legacy for my granddaughter. It feels good when some child is brought home and our baby helped. You just look up at heaven and say, you did it again, baby. Of course, I know sometimes it doesn't turn out good, but the Amber Alerts give them something more to go on from the very start.
Wow.
So I'm like, ugh.
That's such a great attitude to have.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
She's trying to see the positive side of it, which I mean, that's all you really can do in that situation.
I know. It's horrible. So that's good. I mean, not good.
Right.
Right.
At least we now know to have something in place and we know how important it is.
Yeah.
To immediately start looking. So, because all the, like, it's been around forever. It's like if you find somebody murdered, it's like the first 24 hours are the absolute most important.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's within I forgot what it was, 3 hours that the child is going to die. Like, you immediately need to start looking. So that's important to have those alerts and have people looking out for them.
Yeah, I never really paid attention to them because I was like, what? This is so far away from me. Like, how am I going to find anything? And I realized I'm like, DFW is all connected. Like, I could be driving down the road and they could be sitting right next to me. Like, pay attention. Just pay attention.
Yes. I know. And now they have those silver alerts. Have you seen those?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For the elderly. Not to joke about it, but one of the ladies I work with, her husband's a little bit older, not like old, but just a little bit older. And I had made a comment and I was like, do you see those silver alerts on the like when you're driving on the highway? I'm like, who is walking around taking the old people? I'm like, what are you doing? Just like immediately in my head's thinking, like an Amber Alert, like they took a little kid. I'm like, they took an old person? What are you doing? And she's like, well, it's not usually because they're taken. She goes, she's like my husband, like sometimes I have to call him and be like, where are you? And he's like, I just decided to walk around Costco. She was like, well, you need to get home. You're going to get lost.
Someone's going to take you.
I'm like, or someone's going to grab him and throw him in their truck. I'm like, oh my God, it's so funny. He's taking the old people.
Who is taking the old people? Now I need to know. But I didn't realize that it was that big of a thing that sometimes older people just basically get lost and they just
wander off, or people with Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it is,
And sometimes they have a car description on there, which means that they're just their family's freaking out. They don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me.
And it always makes me think of that movie, The Holiday, where she goes outside.
Yeah.
No. No.
Wait, what?
No, it's not with
What am I thinking?
It's got Jude Law, Cameron Diaz. I know what you're talking about.
The Last Holiday.
The Last Holiday. It's Queen Latifah. She goes missing. We cannot find Queen Latifah.
I love Queen Latifah.
Stop saying Latifah. It sounds weird now. Oh my gosh.
Oh god.
But no, she goes. It's the one with like Cameron Diaz and Jude Law. And
Yes.
they
No, I
like
know what
switch
you're talking
houses.
Okay.
Well, anyway, she goes out walking and she sees this old man walking. So she stops to talk to him and he's like, I'm lost. He's like, all this is so different from when I first moved here so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which house is mine or how I get turned around. And I'm like, that would be a very normal thing to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's just scary. Sometimes I get lost driving around Plano because
Oh,
I've been here forever. And I'll be like driving around. I'm like, wait. Or I'll take the long way because I'm like, I remember this way from like going home from soccer or something. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out eventually.
My ex, his aunt, she lived in the same place like her entire adult life. Her husband had to paint their door red because she could never find their house. For some reason, she would just get lost every single time. So he painted it bright red, and she was like, "That's it. That's the door right there."
The red one, that one.
Yeah.
Well, also, we just moved to a new house, and our old house was like the second house on the street. So like, I immediately could find it. It was like one of the only 2-story houses. So like, there it is. And now I'm like, wait, is it the third house? Is it the fourth house? Do I need to count? I don't know. And then I'll like sit there and I'm like I've passed it a couple times and I'm like, damn it, it was right there. So I'm like, if Richard's not home, and then I'm like, oh my God. And then we had like a blow up thing for Halloween. Yeah. And so then I knew what it was, but now I'm like, damn it. We gotta take that down. I'm not gonna know where I'm going again.
You like try and walk up to someone's door and you like get mad because you can't open the door.
Well, literally today. Well, okay, I have 2 true crime stories. We almost lost our lives. Not really. They're just a joke, but this is what happens when you listen to too much true crime.
Yes.
We showed up today and we had went out to eat lunch and we go back home and there's a car parked in the driveway. So like Richard's car was in the one side and there was another car on the other side and there was a guy just standing there. Richard's like, who is that? So Richard rolls down because like my window was the closest. So he rolls down my window and he was like, hey buddy, what are you doing?
Hey,
and he was like, and he was like, oh, and I'm like don't get me. And
like ready to
and the guy was like, and Richard was like, can I park? And he goes, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, sorry, I'm here early. And Richard's like, early for what? And he was like, oh, the Facebook Marketplace deal.
Oh no.
Richard goes, no, we don't, we didn't sell anything on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, oh my God.
No.
And then he was like, oh, this is the address they gave me. I put it in the thing and this is the house it took me to. And Richard was like, well, will you look again? He looked and it was the house on the other street, like down. I was like, oh, that's that street, not this street.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I almost died. I was like, what if this was something horribly horrific? And you rolled my window down. What were you thinking? What if he took me? I'm the old person.
What if Silver alert like a huge situation and he's been watching us this entire time and he just needed to see.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. God. And then yes, so this weekend the boys had went out camping and it was like right down the road. I mean, it was like a 20-minute drive from our house, so it wasn't far. And I had picked up some food for them and was going to drop it off to them. So I went and dropped it off. And it's like a really big open area. Like the campsites out there are like a lot. They're really big.
Yeah.
So it's like you would have to walk quite a bit before you got to the other one. And we were sitting there at this, and there's like a little pond in their campground too. And then all of a sudden this couple walks out of the pond area. And we were just down there, and there was only one way to get up and down. It was the like in and out of our campsite. And I was like, I'm just like staring at him, and I was like, Richard. And like the lady's like bending down, like taking pictures of the grass and stuff, and like there's like literally bushes, and she's like taking pictures, and the guy's like walking really close to the tent. And I mean, like, we're kind of far enough off where you would have to like, but we're staring straight at all of this. And he keeps looking over it. Like, he sees us staring at him.
Yeah.
And he just like walks by, and then he kind of like peeks into the tent. And I was like, what is going on? And then he goes and he like, you know, the little like stone or the little like metal things they put for you to put a fire in.
Yeah.
Whatever. So he goes and he like kicks it. And then she's like walking around like amazed, like she's never seen a campground before in her life. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I was so confused. And Richard's like staring at them. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Anyway, so they finally like walk over into the next campsite, which is not theirs, and do the same thing.
What?
And then I'm like, okay, well, they left. Like, me and Madeline are going to go ahead and go back home. Bye. And then like not thinking anything of it. And then like the whole rest of the day, I'm like, that was really weird. I'm like, what if they were just like sizing up the campground and like making sure they like checked out the tent and were like taking pictures of the kids around and stuff. I'm like, what if? And so I like text Richard. I'm like, do you have your gun? And he was like, yes, I have my gun. Why are you worried about it? And I was like, because those people walking through the campsite scared the shit out of me. And he goes, what people?
What?
I'm like, well, I'm glad to know it wasn't scaring you. And it was like the people that were like looking in the tent and kicking the fire thing and all of this. Like, what do you mean, what people?
So
again,
one of two things most likely was happening with them. They were either on mushrooms and they were like tripping, and she was taking pictures of grass, or they were doing some inappropriate things in the woods, and they came out and saw you guys, and they're like, just act natural and like just take pictures of the grass. Like, I don't. That's the only two options.
Oh my gosh. It was just crazy where I was like, and the fact that he just kept, like, she was so oblivious of everything that was going on. Like, she literally was just like, and she kept like pointing at like the trees and stuff.
Mushrooms.
And I was like,
they were on mushrooms.
And he's like, he keeps turning around and staring at us. Like, we're staring at him, and he's staring back at us. I'm like, you know that's our stuff. Like, you can realize. I was like, what is going on?
Creepy.
It was so scary.
That's amazing.
I didn't like it.
Just don't do mushrooms around Storm. You'll be all right.
You might get shot if you do that.
She's gonna think you've like murdered somebody or something. Just like those other people.
Freaking mushroom people.
Mushroom people.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
Why are you staring so hard?
Well,
now that you say that, though, it does make a lot of sense, because there was absolutely no reason that she was so amazed at the bushes.
Yeah.
What is happening here? Oh my
God. Look at this tree.
Literally, that's how she was. I just
I would have fucked with her and like stood next to her and just be like, "What you looking at? What is it?" We're just talking and like doing this the whole time.
Oh my God.
And then she's not. She's just like really is amazed with the trees. And then she goes home later and she's like, oh my gosh, this weirdest interaction happened.
And then she goes to record her podcast and talks about this person that walked up to her.
I was just going through a campground, I was going through somebody else's campground. It's totally normal. And then this lady just comes up and is waving her hands everywhere trying to talk to me. It's just like a bear, you know, where you're like, hey, get out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Get out. Oh my gosh.
We are
Stop
so
it.
country. It's
You're
bad.
so irritating.
For real.
Oh my God.
Everyone's like, okay, we turned it off already, y'all.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're like, stop talking, please.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Okay, so that did end up being a little bit short, but yeah.
I never knew that came from like right down the street.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, me either.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
it's implemented everywhere now, which is pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know. Of course. I was doing good when I was writing it down and that grandma thing came up and I was writing it down. I was like, I'm going to start crying again. Everyone's going to be like, oh, Lord, here we go again. I was like, just read it and swallow. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's
show
like
no emotion.
It's like when we were recording with Kevin and we told him that we were crying a lot and he goes, you can never tell. And I was like, we're real good at hiding it. Like,
yeah.
Real good. Yeah.
Is that generational trauma?
Millennials, you're welcome. Wow.
But speaking of, I had no idea. I think I've talked about this before because I read it somewhere or maybe I watched it on a YouTube video. Did you know that it's like generational trauma? Like if somebody was in the Holocaust or, you know, whatever, and they hold trauma from that, they can pass that same trauma down to their kids. Like just like giving birth to their kids and their birth, like they're born with that trauma.
That's so wild.
Just because it like, I'm like, that's crazy.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all keep freezing.
Oh my God.
I know. I got all the like physical problems. I didn't have anything else.
That's so wild to me.
Do y'all okay, hold on. Y'all keep freezing.
You have been frozen for a little while.
Yeah.
Both of y'all keep freezing.
I think it's just our computers.
I think it's Sage's ghost telling us
it
you're
is.
done.
Yeah.
Like,
Can you stop talking?
What is happening?
Okay, everyone's turned off now. Can you stop?
So I'm just like sitting here like, and then you come back.
We're like talking about crying, and she's like, "It's so funny."
Well, now we have to name the. No, we don't need to name the ghost. That's not a good idea.
No, don't name it.
Not a good idea. No. Okay. Well, Rainey called me today, and she was at somewhere, and she showed me a doormat that's a Ouija board, and I was like, okay, I want it.
No,
so
absolutely not. What if you accidentally step on it weird or something? And
he said, "Whoopsie,
whoopsie."
Sorry. I just apologize to it every time.
You're like talking on the phone and you're like, do you want to come inside? And you step on yes at the same time. And then it's like, yeah, let's go.
Oh my God.
I invite every ghost and vampire in the vicinity.
Yes, don't. No, not happening.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, since the ghost is telling us to shut up.
Yeah, it happened again. I'm like, what's happening?
Where can they find us?
We are on Facebook, Three Siblings Walk Into a Bar. We are on Instagram at 3SWIB Podcast. Please go on there, like, comment, do all the things. We love when you guys interact with us. Also, please rate and review. It is super helpful for us, especially on Apple. They're a little bit picky about sharing, especially if you don't write a written review. That is very important too. And yeah.
And watch us on YouTube.
Oh, and the tubes. I forgot about the tubes.
Yep.
You're
going to see me roll my eyes at my husband.
Right.
This one.
All right. Well, that's what happens when three siblings walk into a bar.